We have some interesting news with regard to advocacy in SAP Global Developer Relations and Community. Hi, I'm Thain. Welcome to another SAP CodeTalk. Actually, probably the first or second of the year, so you'll all call how it all sorts out. And I'm really pleased to say I have Thomas Jung with me live from his study. Thomas, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Some people may have seen some tweets this afternoon. We're doing this on Monday, the 6th of January. You and I have many code talks in the past, but you've got some interesting news with regard to advocacy at, as I said, SAP Global Developer Relations and Community. So I'm going to hand it over to you so you can just take the floor for a second.
Yeah, thanks. I'm actually joining the same group that you're in, Ian, and I'm going to take over leadership of the developer advocates team. Actually did as of January 1st. We're still in a little bit of transition phase and whatnot. I'm learning a bunch of stuff, but yeah, it's really exciting. It's developer stuff is in my blood, always has been, and to be able to come onto a team that does nothing but that and covers broad range of technologies and products, all focused on developer, seemed like a natural way to go, and to take over management of a team. If there was ever a team I was going to manage, this would be the one I wanted to do, because it's a task that I feel so strongly about. It's such a great group of people. It was a no-brainer for me to want to come on and join this team. So very excited.
Well, we're very excited to have you. And as I said, you and I have spoken many times on Code Talk. I know that I think we've done maybe one code jam together, but we also, we've had you out doing code jams over the last couple of years. And also you've joined us for the last three tech heads, or the three tech heads of 2019, the last tech heads of the decade. You actually joined us on the show floor. Yep. So that's a little bit of history of where you were, in the last few years that I know you, Tom. But can you give the audience a little bit of history of like pre-SAP possibly? Were you actually a child prodigy in SAP or whatever?
Let's see. I've been in the SAP world for 24 years now. So that means I started when I was 4 years old. No, I'm an old guy. I started as a customer, like most people in the community. Actually started right out of university. My first day on the job at a customer was the SAP implementation kickoff meeting. So I walked right into it. Didn't know anything about SAP, being fresh out of university. This was the 90s. It wasn't exactly a household name then. Yeah, and it was because all the people in the organization, the IT organization that had been around a while, had seen failed attempts to get off the mainframe and get Y2K compliant. They didn't want anything to do with this new project. Let all the new young people go do this project and waste their time on it. And well, fortunately for me and the company, it wasn't a waste of time. We implemented and it was a big success. So yeah, I spent the first 10 years as a customer, as an ABAP developer, doing mostly ERP, but also doing Portal, XI, BW, kind of the whole slew of technologies that existed in those days. But then, yeah, 14 years ago was when I left the customer. I was at the same customer basically for 10 years. Kimball, as many people know me from those days, I worked for Kimball, was an electronics manufacturer and a furniture manufacturer. So I spent about 5 years in each of those doing two separate SAP implementations. So got an interesting range of experiences there. But then 14 years ago, I came to work for SAP. And since then, I've always done developer stuff. I've primarily been in product management over the years and owned developer languages or tools. Spent a good portion of the ABAP world, and then most recently the last half a decade plus in the HANA world. And that's one of the things that's exciting about this is I can still put a foot in the ABAP world and a foot in the HANA world and other stuff too in this role. But yeah, I've always enjoyed particularly the kind of advocacy portions of the PM role. We always broke PM down into roll out and roll in, and I always leaned really hard into the rollout. I enjoyed that part of it, and meant I was out there traveling and doing events a little more than maybe the typical PM role. So it was like I was training for this job for the last 14 years. So very, very excited.
Yeah, I think actually I'd agree with that, sort of cutting your teeth on the, out there. And, as I say, we're very happy to have you. So that's a really lovely sort of introduction to the world of Thomas. But actually now we're going to have to call you Tom because we've got Thomas Rassel. So you're now Tom. So
yeah, that's fine.
I'll remember that. So if you were to be able to sum up, what do you think the necessary skills for either the current or the new developer and where they should be looking for the learnings out there at the moment?
Yeah, it's a bit challenging right now because there's so many, and the days when we could kind of choose one technology, live totally within that world, probably gone, maybe forever. I mean, with the opening up of the ecosystem, that's a good thing, but it brings so many opportunities, but the responsibility to learn so many new things particularly for the developer. So I think you have to be, the most important thing, the most important skill is your ability to learn because we have to continually reinvent ourselves these days. More specifically, everything that's going on with the cloud. I mean, anybody who's been to an event or anything has been hammered about moving to the cloud. We actually see customers now moving en masse to the cloud. That means understanding not just SAP's cloud platform and its capabilities, but hyperscalers underneath that. Increasingly, people are going to want to leverage some of the technology from the hyperscalers, some from SAP, and then the business applications on top of it. And the best developers are going to be the ones that can traverse that whole system for their company. And it's not means you have to know every hyperscaler, but your company is going to focus on one or two, or you got to help them focus on one or two, and then get out there and know how to weave a complete application across all those parts and pieces. That's going to be the challenge for all of us, and it's the challenge for our team in developer advocacy. We face the same challenge that our customers do. We're at the beginning of the year. We're trying to figure out what technologies to focus on for the year, what to drop, what to learn new. We hit that challenge ahead of you guys, and hopefully we solve it well and share what we've learned and decided with you guys and help you make those decisions as well.
Excellent. Well, you've led me into my last question really well, because I know in CodeTalk we never talk about futures. I'm going to sort of bend the rules slightly, and again, you don't have to go deeply because it's the start of the year and it's a new role. But you mentioned about that in the last few minutes. What about your plans going forward for the advocacy team, and well, maybe more for the digital side?
Yeah, I mean, keeping it high level, I mean, some of the things that we want to do is the developer center for one, and all the tutorials. There's tons of great content, but I've kind of been looking at that the last couple of days, and it's a little overwhelming how much there is, and maybe some of it is outdated, and we want to, the newer content has better navigation flow and things like that. So we want to update some of what's out there, bring it more in line with the same quality as the newer content, and make sure that none of it is too stale technologically as well. There was the last couple of years has been a rush to get a lot of content out there, and now it's important that we curate it really well. So that's a big thing that everybody's on the team is gonna hear from me, and hopefully then middle of the year tech ed time, developers out in the community will see a difference there with the content that's out there. And then of course SAP has new technologies all the time, and we see some new things launching this year. The HANA Cloud Services is coming. Everybody knows that's coming soon. So we've got to get ready for that. We've got newer technologies from last year like Qualtrics. And, the other thing we wanted to do is we looked at everything we've done, whether it's code jams or the developer center or any of the other in-person stuff. And a lot of it has been focused on if you're building applications greenfield. And we said, for this year, in addition to that, we also want to talk more increasingly about extensions and how you build extensions, S4 extensions, other cloud application extensions. So there's going to be a real focus on building end-to-end extensions that cross multiple products, which is always a challenge when you have to do trials with multiple products and your tutorials have a lot of prerequisites, but it's a challenge that I think we're up to expand that kind of content.
Excellent. Tom, thank you so much for joining me, taking some of the time out of your first few days for the team. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining the CodeTalk audience, and I'm sure they'll look forward to hearing more from you throughout the year.
Yeah, thanks for having me.